We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine on this day of the Russian invasion. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who's built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon.
Okay, so it is Tuesday, the 5th of July. I'm going to start here. Al Jazeera and The Guardian and the New York Times do a great job. So does the Kiev Post and some others, but they do a great job of chronicling the key events of the day. And so that's usually a good place to start. I'm just going to highlight a couple. Ukrainian forces that retreated from Lysychansk are now holding the line between Bakhmut and Slovyansk. And I'll show you that on the map in just a little bit. Yesterday, President Putin congratulated Russian troops on liberating the eastern side of Ukraine. So here is the map. Here's Luhansk and here's Donetsk. So it's just below it is what they're going to be focusing on next. And they're really going to try to take this area here. Let me go to the British. This is the British intelligence update. And the Ministry of Defense does a really good job of highlighting things that are important. Russia's relatively rapid capture of Lysychansk extends control virtually across all of the territory of Luhansk, and there's just a little bit that goes beyond that, but essentially, yeah, that's correct. It presented the immediate purpose of the war, naming it liberating the Donbass, okay? And the Donbass extends to, let's go back here, to both Luhansk and Donetsk. They're also grabbing this territory down here, but this is really the areas that they want. So let's keep going. Uh, he said there's a realistic probability that Ukrainian forces will now be able to fall back to a more readily defensible, straightened front line. So if we look at a deep state map, so here is let's go back. This is 7.4. They didn't update it on 7.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so here is 7.1, beginning of July, and Severodonetsk has been captured already. And what you don't see here, because it's not expanding, expand a little bit more. So this is Lysychansk, and Lysychansk, as the days go by, you just see it get closed in on. See, it's already captured by 7.3, and then they're taking this territory, so it's 7.4. Okay, so now you'll see this front line become here. This is where the Ukrainian army is. Servisk, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Servisk is going to be attacked next. But the real big areas are these things like Bakhmut down here and Slovansk. And so eventually a line will form across here, maybe across this road or on the other side of this road or something along those lines in order to, and it'll be a straight line rather than being surrounded so much. Okay, let's keep going. This is the Institute for the Study of War. Russia's stated objectives on its invasion in Ukraine remain a regime change in Kyiv and a truncation of the sovereignty of any Ukrainian state that survives the Russian attack despite Russian military setbacks and rhetoric. So they don't just want this area in Donetsk and Luhansk. Let's go back over to this map. Okay, they actually want the whole of Ukraine. They want to change a regime, and the further they can push, if they can carve it like halfway through Ukraine, they'll take half of Ukraine. But they really do want to overthrow the government, is what it's saying. Let's keep going. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev stated on July 5th that the Russian military operation in Ukraine will continue until Russia achieves its goals of protecting civilians from genocide, denazification, demilitarization in Ukraine. And that's almost exactly what Russian President Putin said in his 24th January speech. And by the way, if you haven't read that speech, just Google it and read it, and you'll be amazed at how he's talking about like the empire of lies, the United States is causing this problem. What? Okay, so at any rate, now Igor Girkin was a critic that came out and said, like, hey, that stuff, and he fought in the Donbass. He was a commander in the Donbass in 2014, and he came out and he said, like, yeah, you got a victory, but it was a really costly victory. But there's some more to this that's going on here today. Girkin said that the intended goals of denazification and demilitarization will only be possible with the total defeat of the Ukrainian military and the surrender of the Ukrainian government. You're not going to get that. Not without a full-on, like, fully mobilized invasion. This special operation is not going to give that to you. And then you're going to have continual undermining and sniping, because you can take the territory, but you can't hold it. Not with the resources that you have. You need you had 3-to-1 resources when you got in. You're at like 2 point something to 1 now, and you really need 5 or 10 to 1 in order to occupy, and you won't be able to do it. Now, what's important here is Gherkin noted that Russian victory is premised on the capture of Novorossiya. Well, what's Novorossiya? Novorossiya is this idea going back to Catherine the Great, who seized this land and took it for Russia. Okay, it's a notional territory that encompasses 8 Ukrainian oblasts, including the Donetsk, Luhansk oblasts, and much of eastern and southern Ukraine. Gherkin also claimed that the capture of Novorossiya is the bare minimum, and that Russian goals will be realized through the capture of Malorossiya, which is an invocation of the Russian imperial concept for almost all Ukrainian territory. So they actually want to grab up the whole land. Now, that's really interesting. Here's the Russian Security Council, this guy who is making those claims. The goals of the special operation are to ensure the protection of the people from genocide and whatever. Okay, and so that's the actual article from Pravda that they're talking about. And then there's this really interesting thing where the Swedish Prime Minister gives Zelensky a copy of a letter from King Charles XII on the recognition of Zaporizhia as an independent state. So, I mean, you're talking about Novorossiya. Well, yeah, this is with Catherine the Great. Before Catherine the Great sees this, Catherine was like somewhere around, I don't remember, somewhere around like the colonists in America, 1770 something, 1750, I don't remember exactly. But I'm handing over a copy of a letter from the National Archives of Sweden written in 1711. King Charles XII wrote a letter about, I don't know what that is, Palaurik. There he gives instructions to the Swedish ambassador to recognize Zaporizhia as an independent state so that there would be no harassment from the Moscow Tsar. So it was Sweden's property, this area of Zaporizhia. That's Zaporizhia is down more toward the south. The Zaporizhia, this region, okay, Melitopol and all this oblast here. It should have been an independent, like that's how it was supposed to be. And so it's just kind of interesting. And she's, saying, hey, look, this Russian aggression must end. Okay. But remember, the real action is going to be in Slovansk, right? That's here. And remember, Severodonetsk is here, Lysychansk is here, and Slovansk, Kramatorsk, Bakhmut, these cities are really where it's going to be the focus of as we move forward. Okay, Bakhmut, Slovansk, it's going to create this front line kind of here rather than something that's enclosed. Okay, Slovansk mayor reports massive shelling. Slovansk, a massive shelling at the town center. Everyone must stay in bomb shelters. We'll report more information later. This is what it looks like. This is from Radio Free Europe. I mean, they're being hammered. And I'm pretty sure Radio Free Europe does not mind playing this. They're wanting to get the message out. But yeah, it's I mean, this is just a commercial center. This is like a mall. This is, I mean, a shopping center. It's not anything. There's no military targets here, and they're just being hammered. Okay, that's enough of that. That's bumming me out. Here we have civilians are urged to evacuate. The head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration has urged them to evacuate, and there's good reason. Tax and Slovansk came after Ukrainian forces on July 5th took up new defensive lines in Donetsk, and after Putin declared a victory lap. Okay. In other news, Turkey has seized a Russian ship carrying stolen grain. Now, why is Turkey involved in this at all? So the reason is because if you're on the Black Sea, you have to go through Istanbul and this little isthmus here that Turkey is Turkey's property in order to get out of the Black Sea. So Turkey has to maintain good relations with Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, Ukraine, Russia, and Georgia over here, because anyone in the Black Sea trying to get through, they pass through Turkey's real estate. So what happened was that a Russian flagged ship carrying thousands of tons of grains is being held by these authorities. The Zebek Zohli is illegally transporting 7,000 tons of grain, or at least according to the Ukrainian authorities, hey, they stole it. The voyage of the Zebek Zohli has been proudly announced by Moscow-appointed head of occupied Zaporizhia region, where the port of Berdensk lies, the first commercial ship to take supplies out of Russian-controlled ports. So they're, yay! So now that we're in charge and there's peace again, and we've established our whatever, we're going to see we're starting trade again. Well, you're starting trade with stolen goods. So it's not exactly right. On Tuesday, the authorities installed by Russia in the southeastern region announced an agreement to sell grain to Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Okay, now here's how it's being told in Russia on Pravda. After a cargo ship incident, Turkey will soon close the Bosphorus for Russia. And the article says that the Russian leased Zakik ship Zabi Soholi with 7,000 tons of grain. Turkey seized the ship at Kiev's request. According to Ukrainian side, the grain allegedly belongs to Ukraine, allegedly. The ship, which is now staying at the entrance to the port, has been detained by Turkish customs authorities. The Turkish press has a different explanation, says Russia, that it just simply lacks necessary permits. Russia lies. They lie, and then they lie about lying. So it's fascinating, and I urge anybody who's watching this to watch Western media, free, legit Western media that can be verified and independently verified by anyone who wants to in the press. Go and do it, and then go read either Pravda or RT or TASS, and you'll see that there's a big gulf between them, and it's not just a perspective. There's often just outright lies. Okay, HIMARS, the U.S. HIMARS are being used by Ukraine. Well, okay, it's about time. At the start of June, the U.S. Department of Defense said it would be sending 4 HIMARS systems. These are these like long-range rocket systems. They only sent 4 at first, but soldiers would be trained, and it would take about 3 weeks to train. And then there have been a number of social media reports from the Ukrainian military showing the success of these HIMARS. Now, here's the deep state map again, and this is what it looks like. I've already zoned out to Zaporizhia. And now if I click here on the lower left-hand corner in the button, you can see where all the bombs have hit in that day. Like, that's a lot of rockets and bombs. Now, you'll see that most of these are concentrated at the border, right? Now, there are some over in Ukrainian land because the Russians can actually hit targets all over, right? But there's not a lot over here. Oh, wait, but there are. These are HIMARS, I'm pretty sure, because there's no way that what they already, like the stuff around the edges, they've been able to fire stuff around the edges. But if they're hitting here and here and here and here, that is HIMAR attacks. Those are long range. And if you look at the map, you can even create a distance. Like, how did they get from one place to another? So if I click on here, I can start, let me see. I can create a distance measurement from here to here. And if I look at that, there is, yeah, that's 99.86 kilometers. That is about the longest distance possible from, that HIMAR is going to be able to hit. So yeah, that's got it. I mean, there can't be anything except that. So the HIMARS are in effect, but it's taken a long time to get there. Okay. Representatives from 40, and this was the big political news today, from 42 countries officially signed a declaration of the Ukraine's restoration in Lugano, Switzerland. So this was a big meeting, representatives from many countries coming together to talk about Ukraine's rebuilding after the war. According to the declaration, the signatories reaffirmed their full support for the sovereignty, territorial integrity of Ukraine with its internationally recognized borders, countries committed to Ukraine's path of recovery, and also to a Marshall Plan of sorts of rebuilding afterwards. And these are the countries that were involved in this. It's pretty much all of Europe, including things like the Republic of Korea, Japan's there, The United States and Canada, obviously, it's. I mean, that's who's there. Now, what were their principles? They listed 7 main principles. The first is partnership. Second is a reform focus. Third is transparency, accountability, and rule of law. All good so far. Democratic participation, multiple stakeholders. Gender equality and inclusion. I'm not sure exactly why that's necessary here. And sustainability, that means environmental, like they're going to rebuild in a more environmentally friendly way. And yeah, so that's what came out of that politically yesterday. Okay, last thing in politics, Dmitry Medvedev. He's a former president. He's also the deputy head of the Security Council right now. Said Tokyo will not receive energy from Russia and can forget about participation in Sakhan 2. I'm not exactly sure if it's a pipeline or some kind of energy something, but because Japan has been siding with the West, quote, there will be significantly less oil on the market and its price will be much higher. Moreover, it will be higher than the predicted astronomical price of $300 to $400 compared with the dynamics of gas price. But Japan will not have no oil and no gas from Russia. This is a translation. Will have no oil or gas from Russia, as well as the participation of the Salchan 2 LNG project. LNG is liquefied natural gas, so that's probably what it's talking about. So the Russians are not happy with Japan, and Japan and Korea, to their credit, have been weighing in against Ukraine. They're also recognizing that China wants Taiwan, and so they're seeing this threat off looming in the distance. Okay, that's it for today, Tuesday, July 5th. Hope that helps you understand what's going on.
Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.